It's a constant battle. Some days it feels like I'm pushing that boulder up the hill the entire time, right? There have been times that things have gone more smoothly, and there are times where it's a complete cluster, and it's just so frustrating you can't seem to get out of your own way. Sometimes you just have to understand that if you are in this for the long haul, there will be ups and downs.
Yeah.
And sometimes no matter how smart you are, how clever you are, how well positioned you are, things just don't go your way. And there have been times where I'm like, wow, things are going really well. And then I'll look at like the last 3 or 4 projects we brought in, and I'm like, it was so random how we got those jobs. Like, what would my life be like if we hadn't gotten those jobs, if they hadn't discovered me, all that sort of stuff, which can be a dangerous game to play.
Well, hello and welcome to Push to Be More. I'm your host, Matt Edmondson, and we're about to dive into another deep exploration of what truly fuels the journey of life. Oh yes, today, joining me today, I have an exciting guest, Rich Brooks from Flight New Media. And it's fair to say that Rich and I have been on a fair few podcasts together. We're going to be delving into his unique life experiences, the hurdles he's had to push through, the way he kind of recharges his batteries, and what steps he's taken to be more. Now, don't forget, you can find all the show notes and the transcript of our conversation on our website, pushtobemore.com. And while you're there, why not sign up for our newsletter? Each week, we'll zip all of the show's insights, links, and goodies directly to your inbox, absolutely free. How cool is that? Now, this episode is brought to you by Orient Media, champions of meaningful conversations and creators of powerful podcasts. Oh, yes. Have you ever thought about how your voice could ignite a movement or how your story could inspire a community? Hosting a podcast isn't just about talking, it's about creating, connecting, and resonating. It's about owning your narrative, strategically reaching the right people, and fostering a community that doesn't just listen but actually cares. So running my own podcast, I have seen firsthand the incredible impact it has had. But let's be real. The behind the scenes isn't always a walk in the park. Tech hitches, distribution dilemmas, strategizing stress, it can all be a bit of a handful. That's why Orient Media exists. They're the expert hands guiding your podcast journey, ensuring you're never alone in the process. From setup to growth, they've got your back. They strip away the technicalities, leaving you to do what you're good at, connecting and deeply, authentically connecting with your audience. So if you're wondering how a podcast could supercharge your business growth, reach out to Orion Media at orionmedia.com. That's AURION media.com. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet Rich Brooks, a digital marketing whiz who's been riding the online wave for a whopping quarter of a century. As the brain behind Flight New Media and the Agents of Change conference and podcast, Rich is the guiding light in the universe of search, social, and mobile marketing. Author of The Lead Machine, he's the go-to resource for businesses eager to conquer the digital space. With regular appearances as the tech guru on Maine's NBC affiliates, Rich is quite literally the face of modern marketing. So buckle up for a fun digital ride with our very own tech-savvy superhero. Rich, welcome to the podcast, man. It's great to have you. It's great to be talking to you again. How are we doing?
I'm just blown away by how good you made my bio sound. I mean, you improved it tenfold over what you probably got off of my website or when I filled out the form. So I really appreciate that. And serious question, did you ever take voice lessons? Because I'm listening to you and I'm like, I will buy whatever you're selling right now. And I listen to my own voice and I'm cracking. It's like up and down, like I'm 13 years old and going through puberty. Yeah. So I don't know what you did, but you did it right.
Oh, bless you. I've no idea. Because you've obviously, I mean, we were talking before we hit the record button. You're honing in on your 500th podcast episode on the Agents of Change podcast.
It is within reach. Yeah.
Which is amazing. And quite frankly, I think it deserves some of this. Oh, yes. I always like to be able to use my sound effects. Now, So, you and I have done podcasting for a fair few while. We've been on each other's podcasts a few times. And one of the things that I learned early on was when you do stuff in podcasts and video, if you just talk like you normally talk, it kind of sucks any kind of feeling or intonation out of your voice, doesn't it? You kind of have to over exaggerate a little bit for it to work on camera and for it to work on audio. I don't know if you found that. At least that's what I was told, which is why I get a little bit more excited when I do the intros.
I do a little bit more. I kind of have my stage voice on. It's
That's a
interesting
good
though.
word.
Years ago, I interviewed a guy who was at the time running the Art of Charm podcast and
Oh,
brand,
wow.
and he was talking to me about how fake everybody was when they do podcast interviews, and I felt awful because I'm like, hey, and here's Jordan from the, it wasn't that bad, but you got to find that balance, right? Because
Yeah.
the perfect person is the person who definitely brings energy to that conversation, rises and falls as necessary,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time doesn't come across as if they're a carnival barker, if they have those kind of things.
No, but I know what you mean.
That's the balance you want to find, I think.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true. And it helps me when I read, I've mentioned this before on the podcast, so if you're a regular listener, you know what I'm talking about. The bios that Sadaf, the show's producer, gets, when she gets them, she's started doing this thing where she rewrites them. It's a bit like all the bios were a bit static and a bit boring. No offense if you've been on the show previously, but all bios are a bit sort of LinkedIn-y, aren't they, really? And so she's got into this habit of rewriting them in quite extraordinary ways, to the point where I think we should probably charge for this as a service.
I agree. After me, obviously.
Obviously. It's freebie for anybody who's a guest. You can use it.
I will tweak somebody's bio. And a lesson that I learned from, it was Michael O'Neill of the Solopreneur Hour, I believe it was, who told me, you never say the guest name until the end, like as if you were in the talk show. And ever since he said that, I'm like, oh, that's actually really cool. So that's what I started doing. So I do minimal stuff where I'll pull their name out and then I'll say, and today we're talking to Matt Edmondson, after I've kind of built you up quite a bit. And I do like that kind of energy. Now, of course, people who see the podcast before they play it know who it is. And then I'll, if I've got like, their website that I have to mention is like, Google Ads by Jill, then it's going to be less of a surprise. But at the same time, that's it. I'll punch it up occasionally, but what's your assistant's name again?
Sadaf.
She did a killer job on my bio. I'm totally stealing her work and calling it my own.
Yeah, you totally should do that. She'll be very flattered that you did. There's no doubt. Sadaf is amazing. But no, I always enjoy. I never read the bios before we get into so as soon as I hit the record button and we do the intro, that's the first time I read it, which is why I often find myself giggling or laughing or smiling, because I just think this is so well written. It's just as phenomenal. So, New Flight Media is your company. Just tell the good listeners what that does.
Yeah, so about 26 years ago, I started a company which became Flight after a while, and we do digital marketing. And so we build websites and we do branding. We do SEO, paid search, paid social, some organic social as well, a lot of content creation for clients, and just a lot around the strategy. So businesses come to us when they want to generate more leads online. As simple as that.
And how did you get into it? Did was this something you sort of stumbled into? Was this an evolution of a digital business over the years, or was this, something that fell out of the sky and sort of into your lap?
I've always been interested in computers and technology. We had an Apple IIe growing up, and I learned how to do simple programming on it. And so I was always kind of connected to computers, went off to college, come back, and all of a sudden there's all these articles in the Boston Globe at the time, reporters talking about the internet. And I'm like, it pissed me off that reporters knew more than I did about computers. Right. So I went out and I bought a new, I think it was the Mac Performa at the time, which was probably not the best computer ever to get on the internet, but whatever. Did that, taught myself how to build web pages and do all that sort of stuff. Brought it to my company I worked for at the time, was a medical supply company. I was doing a lot of sales on the road, and I built them a website while they weren't looking, and they liked it so much they took me off the road and put me in the office which meant there was only 6 months before I was going to quit because I couldn't stand being in the office there. But that was basically the beginning. I just figured I'll start making websites for people. I thought maybe I had 2 years in me before either programmers learned how to design or designers learned how to program. I'd never taken a business course, so I didn't know you could hire people more talented than you to do the things that you don't do well or that you don't enjoy doing, which painfully I discovered over the next 26 years. But yeah, that's kind of how it was. It was a little bit of just like professional jealousy that I didn't know as much as I wanted to. And it was also something that I really enjoyed doing. And even though I never thought I was really all that interested in business, I find it really fascinating to sit down and talk to people about their business and figure out how they can get in front of the people they want to. Like that's probably the one part of the job I can't give up is that piece of it, because I love that strategy piece. So but that's kind of what led me to the path I'm on right now.
Fantastic. You know what? We share very similar stories because in the mid to late 90s, a friend of mine came and said, I need a website. Do you know anybody that does these things called a website? And I said, I remember the conversation really clearly. There's some friends of mine in Liverpool who had a company they just literally started a bit like yourself in the late 90s. And I said, well, there's these guys. They were called the Web Shed back then. They're now called Mando, and they're a massive agency. And I said, there's these guys, but they charge a small fortune. I said, but I know there's a bit of software out there, and if you buy the software, I'll figure it out. And I was installing saunas and steam rooms at the time. And so did the same thing. We just started building websites, having a little bit of fun with it and seeing where it went. And here we are all these years later having conversations about how we run digital businesses. It's funny, isn't it, how these things sort of present themselves and you've no idea where it's going to lead to. But just that small opportunity at that time has resulted in something quite big for you, right?
Yeah. And like you and I both started just building websites. But early on, I actually used to have a newsletter that would go out, not an email newsletter, a physical print newsletter before everybody had emails. And most of it was just to educate people about websites. But I remember like my second article was about search engine optimization. And this predated Google. Like I was writing about how to get high up in Alta Vista and Yahoo. But so it was also interesting to me because it wasn't just that I wanted to build websites. I wanted people to really get money out of them. Like I wanted it to make sense for them. So I didn't feel like they were giving me charity. And so that began way back then, like also understanding the marketing side of things and building things a certain way so that they get found and all the other things along the way that we started to use to basically create relationships with our customers.
Fantastic. So when did the podcast start? 'Cause I mean, I've done a lot of podcasts, Rich, I'm not going to lie, but you have definitely done more than me, 500 episodes. When did that start in the whole process?
Yeah. So, I mean, 500, if I do them weekly and maybe a couple times a year, I don't actually hit my due date. So that's close to 10 years of doing it. And I remember I was going to events like Blog World and New Media Expo and South by, and there was these podcasters there. And I had tried podcasting once before and I hated it. Like I absolutely hated it because it was not an interview show, first of all. So I loved blogging. I could knock out a blog in like 20 minutes, the kind of blogs that used to be very popular. Now 8 hours, but whatever. But back then, I could knock out those blogs so quickly, but the podcast did not come easily to me because I'd write out the script and I'd practice it multiple times and I'd read it and the recording and I was editing and it was like 6 hours for these 10-minute bits. And I just didn't enjoy it and I stopped. And then when I started going to these blogging events, but then podcasting was starting to catch on, that's when I said, well, maybe I'll give it another try. And it was actually Michael Stelzner, who runs Social Media Examiner, he's got his own podcast, who kind of like took me under his wing, so to speak. And he was really, really bullish on podcasts back then, still is, and suggested that I would do well to have a podcast too. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I'll turn it into an interview show, which I find is a lot easier than coming up with 500 unique topics and talking about them. Yeah. And I found that there were so many things I enjoyed about the podcast and so many benefits to my company, but also to my professional growth that I probably wouldn't have found any other way. So that was kind of the beginning. And originally it was called The Marketing Agents. And the Agents of Change was a conference I had started. And then after like 100 episodes, I'm like, this is killing me. I've got my company, I've got the marketing agents, I've got agents of change. Each one has all their social stuff. And agents of change and the marketing agents were basically the same content, talking to the same people. So I just kind of folded the marketing agents into the agents of change. And that was it. So I just continued on. Nothing much changed except the branding and the voiceover at the beginning and the music. It was a little more of an Indiana Jones feel versus kind of like the steampunk superheroes of the Agents of Change. But other than that, it was the same kind of content. And so I just kept on rolling.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations. Again, let me... Congratulations on the milestone of 500. Let's enough for that.
How do you afford the studio audience? I mean, you've got to feed them.
And they just clap on demand as well. They're very obedient. But I mean, it is a big milestone, isn't it? 500 episodes of a podcast. Do you have any ideas on how you're going to celebrate that? Or is it just going to roll into 501?
It probably will, on a certain level, roll into 501 because right now I'm so focused on bringing back the Agents of Change conference. I was kind of hoping that it was going to work out like the 500th episode would be like right around the time of the conference, but it's going to be a couple of months earlier. And I didn't feel like stalling or putting it on hiatus just to make that work. So I'll probably do something looking back on 500 episodes, but I don't have like a team behind me where I can go like, get the greatest clips from the last 500 episodes and we'll do a retrospective. So I think I'll talk a little bit about how the show's grown and what kind of things I like doing and why I pursue it. But I have not figured that out. And I've only got about a month. So I've really got to get on that.
Fantastic.
For 300, you remember that movie 300?
Yeah.
And I forget the guy's name, begins with a G. He's got his shirt off. So
Gerard,
I made a joke.
Yes.
I made a joke of I put myself on the movie poster, just my head on his body. So it's quite a step up for me when I celebrated the 300th episode. And then somebody in my office who no longer works here, but blew it up into a poster size and wanted to hang it on the wall. I'm like, I love what you did. I'm not hanging that up. It's just so embarrassing. I don't know if there's a movie 500. I mean, there's the 500 Days of Summer, but I don't think it has the same resonance as 300.
No,
so I'm not really sure what I can do.
No,
I probably should have thought of this before. Reach out to like everybody who's ever been on my show and be like, hey, can you give me a little clip for my 500th episode?
Yeah, 500 little clips.
Write that down right now.
Yeah, do that. Get some clips from people. The other thing you could do, of course, is get Michael Stelzner and say, listen, come on the show and interview me about the journey of the show because you started this thing. And so you
awesome.
Could have a conversation with him.
I did on my 100th episode have a friend of mine interview me so we could talk about what it's like hitting 100. But bringing Mike back on, I mean, he's been on a few times. He's actually I don't have a lot of people who come back multiple times because I'm always looking for new voices. But he's been on probably more than anybody else anyway. So it might be worth reaching out to him.
Mate,
good idea. Great
Just
ideas.
a thought.
Yeah.
So, business then. You've been doing this business for a fair few years, it's fair to say. Again, we were laughing a little bit about this beforehand, where people just go, you're so old. We get this all the time. You're so old.
You don't say that, but you hear that for sure.
Just in that
You've been doing this
intonation.
for so long, and your hair is very gray.
Yes. Were there inside toilets when you were a boy, Matthew?
Right, exactly. So were you using coconuts to originally record your podcast?
Yeah. It's brilliant, isn't it? So it's fair to say both you and I, Rich, have been around a little while. Now, business, has it always been straightforward, or what sort of, I guess, where have you had to push through on a few things to sort of get to where you are now?
It's a constant battle. Some days it feels like I'm pushing that boulder up the hill the entire time, right? There have been times that things have gone more smoothly, and there are times where it's a complete cluster, and it's just so frustrating you can't seem to get out of your own way. Sometimes you just have to understand that if you are in this for the long haul, there will be ups and downs.
Yeah.
And sometimes no matter how smart you are, how clever you are, how well positioned you are, things just don't go your way. And there have been times where I'm like, wow, things are going really well. And then I'll look at like the last 3 or 4 projects we brought in, and I'm like, it was so random how we got those jobs. Like, what would my life be like if we hadn't gotten those jobs, if they hadn't discovered me, all that sort of stuff, which can be a dangerous game to play.
Yeah.
But what I try and do is figure that over the long, it's kind of like investing in stocks. In the long run, you'll always make money investing in stocks.
Yeah.
But the day you invest, you may lose $20,000 the next day, right? So it's
Yeah.
like you can't look at the short term like that. You've got to have that long term mentality. So, there have been times when I remember distinctly one time I'm like, okay, well, we know how to write HTML now. We'll never need to really improve our skills. And then it was like HTML4 came and CSS came, and I wasn't really paying attention back then. And all of a sudden I found that our websites just didn't look as good or perform as well as others. And we had to go to the team and say, we need to figure all this stuff out. And I try and remember that every time I think things are really moving smoothly, that this is a temporary situation and you will have to keep reinventing yourself. And, the ages of change, that's kind of like a mantra. It's like,
Yeah.
I had an employee once who complained that things were always changing. I'm like, change is our friend.
Yeah.
Because if things always stay the same, everybody could get to where we are. But if we can be more adaptable than any other business like ours out there or near the top of that food chain, then we'll always be successful.
Yeah.
Sometimes more than others, but the bottom line is we will be playing the odds and we will always be successful. But that's definitely a challenge, and growth is a challenge. And these days, finding the right employees are a challenge, or sometimes even finding any employees are a challenge. I mean, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in the U.S., we have a huge worker shortage. And so it's very challenging, especially because we like to hire local. And so we live in the top right corner of the country. It can be a challenge to bring in people who fit with what we want to do and have the skills that we're looking for.
Yeah, it's too true. And I mean, and you guys didn't even have to go through Brexit, which England went through Brexit, and of course, half the labour force up and left. And so, yeah, I was in the States a few weeks ago, and it really surprised me. Like in the town where I was staying for a few days, the what's that donut franchise called?
Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme. That's the one.
Krispy Kreme.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme. Their shop or their store, everything was shut down, and they closed it down like a few months ago because they just literally couldn't get the staff to keep it open.
We've lost a lot of good restaurants in town for the same reason. Like the people are like, I just can't find the staff to keep us open.
It's fascinating. Why is there is this all come out of COVID? Is this also the back end of COVID, people not wanting to go back into work kind of a thing?
I've literally gone online and asked people smarter than me, explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. Where did everybody go? Yeah. And this is not one of those rants about like, you can't find good help anymore, because people have been saying that since the day they started employing people. I think it's a combination. Because of COVID, you had a lot of people who were nearing retirement opt out. You also had a lot of people who realized that their companies didn't give, I don't know what I can say on the show, but two craps about them. Like they just didn't care about them as human beings. Yeah. And they were like, we're fed up with this. And, it just became one of these things where a lot of people opted out of the system. COVID definitely kept people at home. And then when companies started saying you have to come back to the office, a lot of people were like, I don't want to go back to the office. So some of it, I think, was kind of a righting of the ship, because I think that even though I'm an employer, I'm a good one. I think employers had a little bit too much power, and we're not respecting the fact that we rely on others to help us be successful. Yeah. I think that was, part of it. Not here at Flight. I love my employees. Everything's wonderful.
And they're all amazing. But I
do think that's a challenge. And I think that there's a lot of, in the US, I think there's a lot of mental health issues going on right now, in part because of COVID, in part because of the political situation. And it just makes it harder to find people who want to work either in your office or even remotely. It just becomes a challenge. So I think there's a lot of factors going on.
It's a fair comment. I was just very grateful that Chick-fil-A was open, because, I can't go to the States and not grab myself a Chick-fil-A. So the sort of the journey through business, you've got New Flight Media now, you've got your stuff. How was COVID for you? Was COVID, if I can put it this way, you'll know what I mean, but was COVID good for you guys, or was it a bit of a kick
Isn't
in the balls?
That an awful thing to say? But no, COVID was good for Flight. I don't like to say it quite like that, but and you probably, I'm wondering if you had the same experience. What happened is, after the first couple of months where everybody's just absolutely freaking out, and we said as a company right off the bat, we did a couple things at the time to mitigate the fallout, because we didn't know how long it was going to go. We certainly didn't think it was going to go on as long as it did. But, we reached out to our clients and we said, if you need to update anything like a COVID message or anything COVID related on your website, we're just going to do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
We also like clients who had contracts with us, but they were in things like one was a doggy daycare. Well, nobody's going anywhere and no one's going to work. So the doggy
Yeah.
daycare basically had to shut its doors. And then we also did some travel business stuff. And we were just like, don't even worry about it. You don't have to pay us. You're done. We're not going to worry about it. Like you're out of your contract if that's what you want. And they needed to.
Mm.
So that was part of it. And then I spent a lot of time on video and in emails, basically trying to help other business owners navigate this. And I offered a free hour to any of our clients. Like if you just want to get on the phone and kind of talk through what you're going through and if we can be of any service, but the call is free. It's just because we want you to succeed. We want you to survive, which ended up, of course, getting us more business even during those slow times. But once that was over, the next thing that happened is all of a sudden everybody realized, oh, we're in this for the long haul. And we're going to have to deal with this. And people are not coming to our stores anymore. And they're becoming much more comfortable being online and all this stuff. So all of a sudden, all these businesses realize they really need to up their digital marketing and their websites. So we saw 2021 was the best year in company history. Like we could barely keep up. And it was, fantastic on one level. And people would say, how are you doing? I'm like, I don't want to say this out loud, but I'm doing great. I know the world is falling apart, but honestly, I'm basically quarantined with my girlfriend. My family is in their own little pods, but they're all healthy and safe. And my company is busier than we've ever been. So from that standpoint, it was good. And then coming out of COVID, still stronger than it was before, not as good as that 1 year. But I've also found that I'm talking to a lot of industries right now that went through something similar, like hardscapers and landscapers. And then just the other week, people who are in the stove business, like wood stoves and stuff like that. Everybody was turning their homes into castles during COVID. And so they were all super busy because we had no money to spend to go anywhere. And now, of course, all the people who would be buying things now, well, they've already gotten taken care of a day before. So how do you market yourself when all of a sudden there's a lot less interest in your industry?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And we were the same in a lot of ways. Our business, I sold one of our e-commerce businesses during COVID because everybody wanted to be in e-commerce at that point in time. And so we sold that business. It was fascinating and sort of coming through it. What's the journey then been like the last 2 years for you, sort of coming out of COVID, a sort of adjusting to the new normal? I'm curious to know what it's been like for you, Rich, and at New Flight, but also what you found with your clients. You talked about the Fire Guys and how they do life now, where the demand is maybe not as great as it was. But what else have you sort of discovered?
Well, a big change was just the office not politics, but the way everybody at Flight New Media works together, because we hired like 3 or 4 people during COVID. I had never met them in person. It was interesting. The first time we all went together, we put together a schooner trip out of Portland. And I was like joking online. I'm like, I'm meeting some of my employees for the first time ever. Like, I have no idea how tall they are. I don't know what the back of their head looks like. I assume they're 3-dimensional, but I really can't be sure. But then trying to get people to come back into the office, which I was always like, let's use the carrot and not the stick. And to be honest, one of the things I think a lot of us learned during COVID is we can actually be more productive at home for certain types of work than we can in the office. And there were a lot of big companies in America really pushing people, demanding people come back in. I didn't want to be like that. I actually did have a couple people who were kind of like part of my leadership team.
Yeah.
They wanted to bring people back into the office, and we agreed that we would require 2 days in the office. I was waiting for some pushback from people, but people didn't really give us any pushback. They just said, okay.
Yeah.
And it's been primarily good, but trying to find that balance and develop a company culture when not everybody's in the office on the same days has been a challenge, because there's some work we do, and I'm sure it's similar to your business, some work we do that is very head down. You're just doing research, or you're doing writing, or you're doing recording. And then other stuff that's very collaborative, where you want to bounce ideas off each other and the clients as well. So I think it's about, what do you take what were the good things? And I put that in air quotes, but what are the good things that came out of COVID? And I think there were a lot of good things.
Yeah.
We learned to use technology in new ways. We learned to work remotely. We made a lot of more face-to-face connections with our clients than we ever did when it was just phone calls. But just recently, I've been pushing the team to go out and meet with our clients at their place of business. We just came back from a trip the other day where we went up and met a couple of our clients who have manufacturing concerns and got tours of the place. And that was great. We have a couple more coming up, another manufacturer, another person who does like a kind of a food hall area. And I want my team to be there, to just kind of make those connections with people, because it is different when you meet people in person.
Yeah.
And also because I think it's really important, if you're a strategic company like ours, to really get into the physical space of your clients, to really understand what they're going through, how they deal with their customers and everything else as well.
No, fantastic. So what does the future look like for you? What does growth look like for the company?
For me and the company, I'm not looking for huge growth. Like, that's not my number one thing. I do feel that we're a little bit understaffed right now, where everybody's just completely, to the wall with work right now. And so it's tough if somebody's going on vacation, maternity leave, whatever it is. So we should be at 10 people at least right now, and we're at 8. So I got to fill those 2 roles. I think that a perfect size for a company like ours would be 15 to 18 people. So that's probably what I'd like to get to. That just means I can be too deep in all the most important positions in the company, where right now it's like we don't have anybody on the bench. And the other thing is, I'm outside of like that number, I'm not looking to grow exponentially. For me, I'd rather be profitable and focus on the profitability and doing quality work. And I know anybody who would come on the show would be like, and we care about quality, but it's true. Also, it's like, if we're doing quality work and getting quality results, it makes the sales part of my job so much easier, because I can just show the results. So, we've talked about, should we be taking on fewer clients and just really putting more emphasis on those clients, or how can we scale up? How can we use AI? Because what I want to, after 25 years in business now, over 26 years, things change for you.
Yeah.
And this is the old man coming out of me right now. But
bring it on, old man. Let's do it.
I believe that there's a lot of anti-capitalist sentiment in the world right now. And I totally get it.
Yeah.
But I don't think capitalism is the problem. I think extreme capitalism is the problem. And it's when you look back on some of the tax rates in the US, when everybody had an opportunity and there were jobs for everybody and the roads were good and there was all those things happened. The rich were being taxed at like 90%. Now they're taxed at Jeff Bezos pays less in taxes than I do. That's wrong. And I think that America has this idea like capitalism is good and there's no limit to it. And the truth of the matter is that anything in the extreme becomes bad. Religion in the extreme, politics in the extreme, love in the extreme. When you get to the extreme, you've gone too far. And I think we're in a state where it's gone too far. And I believe that we can put that when we have somebody who is ethically and morally in alignment with the way things should be, that we should support those businesses. And I want to see more people who have, and obviously different people have different ethics and different moralities, but I want to see more people who want to do good in the world get into business and get into entrepreneurship, because I really think that business can move the world forward in a positive way faster than almost anything can, faster than governments, faster than nonprofits. But if you let extreme capitalism win, then basically it pushes out all the people who could have done good by creating businesses of value. So I just want Flight to be a business of value. I want us to be profitable, but I want everybody from employees to clients to vendors who interact with Flight to come out better than they went in. And that, for me, would be a very successful legacy whenever I decide that I'm no longer interested in doing this, which will probably be when I'm dead. But the bottom line is that's where I am right now in terms of my entrepreneurial journey. It's like, what do I want Flight to be capable of? Yes, quality work, but more than that now.
Yeah. It's interesting listening to you talk, Rich, because again,
that's interesting. My girlfriend never says that.
Well, but you should talk to her in a podcast channel. Maybe that'll change things.
Maybe that'll, yeah.
But there's some really interesting. There's a really interesting book that was given to me by a friend of mine from Dallas, Texas, a guy called Rich Rising, and in that they track the different decades and how people respond in the different decades of life, and how the 60s are your most productive decade, which thrills me with joy. So I'll be there at some point. Yeah. But what's interesting is when you're in your 30s, 40s, you're going through this sort of, there's this change in your brain where you move from what they call success to significance. And so life stops being necessarily about success. Success is not a bad thing, but the focus becomes much more about significance. And given that most businesses are started by people in their 40s who are in the significance sector, I totally agree with you that business actually is a force for good. And I think a lot of people now are focused on or wanting businesses to step up and do more because they realize that actually it's probably better to buy from a better company than get involved in very polarizing politics. And so I find that fascinating listening to you talk, because I've seen the same thing here. So what does a business of value look like for you? What does that phrase mean? What is the value you're trying to create, if that makes sense?
Right. Yeah. And so obviously this is going to vary person to person, and what I may think is valuable is not valuable to somebody else. But for me, I want to see professional growth in all my employees. Like, I don't want them to feel stuck or static. I want them to be continually challenged and learning new things. For me personally, I want to be learning new things. I want to keep on being interested in things like AI that come up and change our businesses. I want to be doing good work that I'm proud of, work that offers value to the client. I mean, when people invest in a marketing firm or a branding firm like mine, they're expecting to get more money out than they put in. And we really have to make sure that we're taking care of them that way.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we're always going to do it. I mean, like every business, we have some misses along with our hits. So it's not about having a perfect record, but it's about striving to get better all the time. I think it's important for me to be taking the excess out of the company and putting it towards something good and creating value. So we were talking earlier about COVID, and in COVID, I stepped up. I started talking about how companies should treat their employees during this period of time, how to stay sane when you're locked down. I spent a lot of time kind of getting on my soapbox and talking about how businesses should be run and how employers should be treating their employees. And then in the US, George Floyd gets murdered. Sorry, that was a terrible, weird, tight slip up. But he gets murdered by the police, and the Black Lives Matters movement took off, and I didn't know what to say, because as a white male who lives in the first or second whitest state in the nation and currently has no non-white employees, I didn't really feel like I could say anything. And yet I also saw some people saying, I can't believe these companies aren't saying anything. So I felt kind of like stuck.
Yeah.
And I felt that like anything we do might just be looked like as, whitewashing or posturing. I ultimately settled, based on a story I had heard, on creating a scholarship at our local high school for students of color. And for me, it was like, we're a business and we care about business and we care about entrepreneurship. And when I say we, it's me pushing it forward, but I have a team of people who more or less agree with me. The ones who don't seem to care one way or the other. And so I started a scholarship, which I call Black Minds Matter, which I was worried that might be kind of a little bit, some people may not like it, whatever side you're on, but it just felt like the right thing to say at the time. And we've been running that for 3 years, and we give $1,000 scholarship every year to a student of color who's looking to get into business, because I really do believe that if we can put some of these students in a position where they can create their own positive impact on the world, then we've done something of value. So for me, that's one of the things that, I'm happy that we did, and I'm really proud of continuing on that tradition, and I want to see it grow.
Fantastic. That's really cool, man. I like that, because like you, I was you do get trapped between this. I need to say something. I need to do something. Is this going to be tokenism? Is this going to be white splaining? Is this mansplaining? Is this, with everything that's going on, and sometimes you just don't know what to say and when to say it. And I remember reading the book and listening to a lady called Chinny MacDonald, and she wrote a book called God Is Not a White Man, and it's one of the most extraordinary books I've ever read. And I thought, actually, we do need to somehow engage in this, and the fact that you did the scholarship fund, I think, is a great idea, actually, and super genius, which fascinates me. That this whole topic came up out of that, because I remember when I used to live in North Carolina back in the early 90s. So I spent a year or two living in North Carolina, and the racism was just extraordinary at the time. Well-meaning, God-fearing, loving people, but were extremely racist and didn't see it, didn't understand it. And it's one of these things that's become sort of something that we talk about more and more and challenge more and more, which is a good thing. And I'm pleased to see a lot of changes has been made. But that's really cool. That's really cool. So you're running the business. You're trying to build and grow into being a company of value, of more value, because obviously you're doing some great stuff now, and there's going to be some great opportunities for you in the future. How do you keep yourself charged? How do you keep yourself sort of on your game, if you like? How do you recharge your batteries?
So yeah, that feels like two different things. So I would say I'm still endlessly fascinated with the kind of stuff that's going on right now in the world of technology. And that's what keeps me sharp and engaged. Things like, AI right now is just, for me, absolutely fascinating, because I've always been fascinated by technology and how it impacts people, and then how people create new technology. So this to me is like such an interesting time to be alive. And I'm just amazed by it. I'm fascinated by it. I want to see how it all turns out. To me, AI feels as big as the internet. Like when the internet came, like,
it really does.
It's that seismic.
Yeah.
So just that kind of stuff. And also what also keeps me engaged is, as I've shifted my role in the company, trying to train people up and really like trying to make them the best they can be. That also kind of keeps me engaged and sharp and excited about what we're doing.
Right.
The other part of the question is, how do I recharge my batteries? Because even though I can have a great energetic day at work, it can be depleting. And I often will talk about the fact that, like, when I get on stage, which is my favorite place to be, like, I just love being on stage, doing live, not performances, but live presentations. And I get so excited. It's like a drug, but like any drug, then there's the crash afterwards. So usually you'll find me at the end of the night curled up in a ball somewhere, because I've spent all my extrovert credits for the day. So for me lately, and this came out of COVID too, is I discovered a lot of hobbies that didn't require screen or didn't require much screen. So I got the master class with the thing where celebrities teach you how to do stuff. Yeah. And the best one I found, there were two that really hit me during COVID. One was, I'm going to forget the guy's name, but he was the OG, the original gardener. And he literally started gardening in South Central LA. It's an amazing, Robert or Roger Finley. Great story. And his was one of my favorite of the master classes that I've watched. But he talks about gardening, and I learned a whole bunch about soil, which then got me into making compost, which then forced me to make a compost bin. And that actually got me slightly into carpentry. And then all of a sudden I inherited some tools and I started getting into woodworking. And I suck, right? I suck, but I love it. I love going into the garage, and I love using the power tools and sometimes the non-power tools and making things that like probably don't deserve to be in the house, but I'm just so damn proud of having finished something. I actually used to say I don't make anything that doesn't go in the garage or out back, but I did make some cutting boards. There's a maker studio near here. I took a course, made some really nice cutting boards. And then I actually made a record player stand, because we got a record player for Christmas, as we call it in our house. And yeah, since I'm Jewish and she's not, it was, anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. But But yeah, so I mean, I enjoy making it, and I enjoy like learning about the craft of that. So for me, that's recharging. And also gardening to a lesser degree, just like getting out there and doing something where I'm not in front of a screen the whole day. Because I will get up in the morning, I will rush to work, I'll spend 10 hours in front of the computer, I'll go home, eat dinner, and I could play Diablo for the rest of the night. And
Right.
then I'll go into bed and I'll play another game on my iPad until I'm
Yeah.
so tired I can't hold it. And then I'll switch to my iPhone and then I pass out. So that's not healthy, right? And I recognize that even though I have trouble stopping it. But that's what I would do if I was single and by
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
So, finding those hobbies for me that don't require screen, um, that's how I recharge my batteries these days. And of course, my girlfriend and my daughters and my friends, that all makes a big difference too. But yeah, and exercise. Actually, I forgot that one too. I like going to the gym. I'm not huge or swole or anything, but I like staying in shape and I like feeling good about it. So I hit the gym about 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I do
Fantastic.
it.
The more you talk, Rich, the more I think we're like brothers. Apart from the
I'm like,
fact I'm not
why are we
Jewish.
living so far away? Like, why? Like, we should be going out and grabbing beers and going for bike rides and
We
just
should
talking
totally
about
be
life
doing
all the
that.
time.
When I sold my beauty company during COVID, we moved warehouse. So we moved to a bigger warehouse, despite me selling a big chunk of our fulfillment. We moved to a bigger warehouse, and in the back of the warehouse, there's like this section which we didn't really need. And it wasn't massive. It's maybe 400 square foot, something like that. It's a nice little area in the back of this warehouse. So I built a wall, I fenced it off, and I just told to the team, that's my space. And as a little treat to myself, I filled it with some new woodworking tools. And
Nice.
so I put in a table saw, I put in a bandsaw and a planer joiner or thickness planer, so depending on which side of the Atlantic you are. And we added a few things in there because I'd always had like a little workshop in the bottom of my basement, but now I have a slightly bigger workshop at the office, and I'll be heading there tomorrow to carry on making my daughter's bed. So I love the fact you're into
Oh,
joinery,
that's
man.
awesome. Yeah, you're ahead of me on that, but definitely, yeah, I've got the table saw. I don't have a bandsaw. That would be nice. I think my next thing is I'd like to get a jointer. I have a planer, thickness planer, which is really good for. Here's how I am. Like, I'm at this point in my life. I'm like, I'd like to make this project because it's going to require me to spend $500 to $1,000 on a new tool that I'll use once.
You're
So
just
for me,
like
woodworking is as much about spending money I shouldn't be as it is about actually creating
Yeah,
things.
it's so true, isn't it? Because you're just like, I made some plantation shutters for mine and Sharon, my wife's bedroom. So I made these plantation shutters out of beech, and I really enjoyed making them. And the materials were way cheaper if I made them, and I made them out of solid beech, and they were way cheaper, better quality, etc., etc. Of course, the tools I needed to make said shutters had to put the cost of them in a different ballpark. I have used some of those tools again, but there's just something quite giddy and joyful about getting a new power tool. I don't know what it is, but I just love it. I love the shopping for it.
I agree. I love everything about it, even when it is on the screen. Like my favorite woodworking channels and seeing how these guys who are years
Yeah.
ahead of me are doing it. I just find the whole thing fascinating.
Well, keep your eyes peeled because at some point soon I'll be launching my woodworking YouTube channel.
And I will be your first subscriber.
Fantastic. I'll let you know when it's done. We've done 4 projects already. I just need to get one of the guys in the team to edit them. With my idea being that probably I've turned 50. I'm now approaching 60. At 60, I might have a following that I could maybe do something with and just do woodworking. I don't know, but we're going to give it a go and see how it gets on.
Excellent.
But why not? One of the things that is a little known fact, Rich, about me is that I cut 3 of my fingers off with a table saw once, being very stupid with a table saw, making a kitchen. I was making a kitchen as a favor to a friend of mine who worked for the health and safety, which is an office in the government, which is just mad keen about making sure you are connected to safety standards when you're working. And he was the health and safety inspector for woodworking machinery. And at his house, I managed to cut 3 of my fingers off. Now, fortunately, the doctors managed to sew my fingers back on. They all work, although the tip of my right finger is no longer there, as you can see if you're seeing on camera.
Yes. Yeah.
And one of the things that I did, because I did this 19 years ago, one of the things that I did was, as my kids were growing up, I've got 3 kids. They're all, all in their 20s, all 18s. And as they were growing up, the kids would just look at your finger and just look at you like something's not quite right.
Right.
Or their friends would just come round and you'd be like, something's not quite right about him. And so they would look at my finger and they'd go, why is your finger funny? And so I'd say to them, well, and I'd make up different stories. My favorite story was I was massaging Sharon's foot and it just melted off. And so
I'm not sure if they would know what to do with that. Yeah.
Well, no, these young kids just wouldn't go anywhere near Sharon for a little while. They just stood further and further away from her. Oh, I got into trouble for that, Rich, not going to lie. But you know what? It was worth it.
I was curious to know if you got a skill saw. Is that what it's called for your table saw? The table saw is a little bit scary to me. And I had an older one that literally I got the kickback like they show in the videos on YouTube. And it hit me in the stomach so hard that I had to take a knee for like 5 minutes. And I had like Aurora Borealis like bruising across my stomach and chest. But the skill saw, I guess you cannot cut off a finger because the second it feels flesh, it shuts off.
Oh, you're talking about saw stop. The
saw stop, that's what it is, right? Yeah.
Well, again, I'm sorry, dear listeners, if you're getting bored of woodwork. We'll stop talking about this soon.
Right.
My dad was in the States, and I saw the saw stop saws, and because obviously I cut my finger off. My dad, I said to them, go and see them because he was near where their head office was. I want to understand what's going on here because I want the import license into the UK. This was maybe 10, 15 years ago. And we just couldn't get it to work because I thought we're a safety conscious sort of place, probably overly so here in the UK. And I thought actually we could do really well with those. But we never could get them here until recently. Festool have taken that technology and put it on one of their sites also. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I wish we had them because I would have bought one. I bought a Laguna table saw with a cast iron bed, and it is as smooth as butter, man. Let me tell you, it is awesome.
Yeah, I went cheap and I got one with more of a plastic one, and I started hating it the minute I bought it. So that may be something I replace, but we'll see.
Well, the more you stick with it, the more you'll invest in better tools. It's just the way it is.
Exactly.
Listen, Rich, we could talk about woodwork all night, but I dare say we should probably move on. If people want to reach out to you, if they want to connect, find out more about Flight Media, maybe work with you, what's the best way to do that?
They can visit our website at takeflight.com. If you want to learn more about my podcast or the conference, you can go to theagentsofchange.com. And if they want to just connect with me, I am The Rich Brooks on just about every platform out there. And LinkedIn is probably where you'll get the fastest response.
Fantastic. We will, of course, link to Richard's info in the show notes, which you can get along for free, along with the transcript at pushtobemore.com, or they will be coming direct to your inbox if you've signed up to the newsletter. Rich, listen, I've lost count of how many podcasts we've done together now, but thoroughly enjoy every single one of them, and it's just a joy and a privilege, man, to talk to you. Thanks for coming on the show. You are an absolute legend.
I appreciate it, Matt. And you asked some of the best questions out there. So thank you for inviting me back.
Oh, you sweet talker, you. Well, that's a wrap on another fantastic conversation. A massive round of applause for Rich, for joining us today and shedding light on his journey. A huge thanks again to Orient Media for all you change makers out there contemplating podcasting as your new vehicle of expression and connection. Definitely connect with them at orientmedia.com. Now, remember to keep pushing to be more. Oh, yes. Don't forget to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts from, because we've got some more seriously compelling conversations coming up, and we don't want you to miss any of them. And in case no one has told you yet today, you are awesome. Yes, you are. Created awesome. It's just a burden you have to bear. Rich has to bear it. I've got to bear it. You've got to bear it as well. Push to Be More is produced by Orion Media. Oh, yes, it is. For transcripts or show notes, swing over to the website, pushtobemore.com. And a big kudos and shout out to the team that makes this show possible, the wonderful Sadaf Bainon and Tanya Hutzelak. And a big shout out to Josh Edmondson for the incredible theme music. So from Rich and from me, thank you so much for joining us. Have an awesome week wherever you are in the world. I'll catch you on the flip side. Until then, keep pushing. Bye for now.